Fiberglass work is simple. Now, some of you folks may question that, especially if you've been doing this for a while. You're like, man, I never really thought about it as being simple. But if you think about fiberglass, like cooking or baking, for example, you got your basic ingredients, you got the tools to put them together, and then you got the directions you follow, the time, the temperature, so on and so forth. If you follow those directions, you usually get a good result. Now, I'm gonna need you folks that have been following the channel for a while to hang in there with me, because I'm sure I'm gonna miss something, and I need y'all help me in the comments. So this is kind of for the newer folks, but there's also gonna be some information, just the tried and true basics of fiberglass, so that we can all be better at this, working with the material, because it's actually quite amazing. I mean, honestly, again, folks that have been following the channel, you know that we've taken stuff that comes in liquid form and in sheet form, and we've built this 29-footer from scratch. We've been working on our project boat there behind us with new floors, new stringers, new transoms, and everything in between. So let's just start with the fundamentals. First, I want to welcome anybody that's new here to the channel. My name is Joe Buskins. I'm a second-generation professional boat builder, a 100-ton licensed captain, and this is our family's boat shop. So we've got a table full of materials. And again, if you've been following the channel, this may be somewhat familiar, but this is going to be a crash course, because the channel has been growing rapidly. And again, I need the help of our longtime viewers to chime in the comments. And folks that are watching this, if I miss something, go to the comments and look for answers or maybe fill-ins to what we don't cover. Now, if you've never worked with fiberglass at all, there's two main components. You're going to have your resins, and you're going to have your fabrics or your cloths. And today, I'm not gonna make this any more complicated than it has to be. Matter of fact, we've got over 200 videos here on the channel that go into depth on almost every topic. So we're gonna be running over this real fast, covering the basics. And we're actually gonna be doing a little bit of fiberglassing here on a little small table behind us. And then we may touch on tools just a little bit, depending on how time is running. But resins. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that by far my favorite resin is the Vinylester from Fiberglass Warehouse. Now, resins are, it's like anything, it's like a lot of materials, like say outboard motors, for example. I'm kind of a Yamaha guy. I've had really good luck with them, but there's good, better, best, and there's all different tiers, but I've had very good success with Fiberglass Warehouse. Now, on either side of your Vinylesters, I like Vinylester because it's compatible with Gelcoat, which is the paint system that we typically use over fiberglass. And it works really, really easy. It works a lot like polyester resin, which is probably what your boat is built out of. And matter of fact, we're probably gonna be using some of the Vinylester in our little demonstration piece over there. Now, something else that a lot of people like to work with is epoxy resin. I don't use an awful lot of it in our shop, but for you beginners out there, those are the three main types of resins. To me, Vinylester is the happy medium between them. It is stronger and better than polyester, but it's a little easier to work with, in my opinion, and more compatible than epoxy. Polyester is going to be the cheapest. Vinylester is going to be mid-level. Epoxy is going to be the most expensive. And again, for different applications, if you want to learn more about this, we got dedicated videos that just talk about that super in-depth. If I were you and new to fiberglass, Vinylester is going to be the one that I would choose. Now, I touched on Gelcoat. One reason I like Vinylester is because it's completely compatible with Gelcoat. Now, you folks will notice, now we get a ton of questions on this topic. This says without wax, and this is Gelcoat with wax. And again, to clarify, Gelcoat is just the surface of your boat that you're looking at. These are gel coated, molded surfaces. It's not going to be paint. Gelcoat is going to be thicker. It's going to be more durable. And that's what most fiberglass products are either built out of a mold with, or they're coated with. Now, the wax part throws a lot of people off. Wax is needed to help the Gelcoat fully cure on the last coat. Now, you can typically buy it without wax, which is what I tend to prefer, and then go with something like a surface seal. This comes from Fiberglass Warehouse as well, 0632Q. You can add that and about 2 to 3% to your Gelcoat, and that'll create a waxy film and allow it to cure on the last coat. And again, I've got dedicated full-length tutorial grade videos on that. And again, I need my long-term viewers to chime in if I missed something, or if you got something to contribute and add your experiences dealing with these materials. Now, if you want to thin any of these materials, Generally, what you're going to want to use is a styrene monomer. Now, you don't have to have this, and you don't have to have the surface seal, but if you're going to be doing or get started with fiberglass work, I would, again, Vinylester resin, the Gelcoat without wax, and then you can add a little bit of wax to it, your surface seal, and there are some other materials that sometimes you can use, and we may touch on that a little bit later. So you'll follow me on around. Now, to simplify things, if you've been following the channel a bunch, we do use some different putties and whatnot. A structural putty is just basically a resin that's got some thickeners in it that we can bond and glue stuff together with. And I would highly recommend in your kit, if you're getting started, a quart of the Vinylester structural putty. You can stick and glue things together. You can put real pretty radius or radii, or what we call fillets, here in the boat shop, and that's going to do a beautiful job. Now, one thing I love about your polyesters, vinylesters, your putty, your Gelcoat, they're all activated by the same chemical, MEKP, or methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. Now, this stuff, you don't want it on your skin or on your eyes, but this is the activator for it. As a matter of fact, I've got a little cheat sheet here at a glance. You might want to take a screenshot of that. As a general rule, 32 ounces, 10 to 20 cc's, so on and so forth. A good rule of thumb, though, is whatever ounces you have, you can more or less half that. So half of 16 would be 8. 8 cc's is kind of right in the middle of what you would need as far as catalyst or activator. And again, hang around to the end. We're going to be doing a little live action demonstration. We'll do some fiberglass work to kind of show y'all this in real life. Now, I'm going to put on a little bit of PPE, but I want to show you, as we mentioned, you got your basic components. You got your resin and you got your fabrics. Now, some PPE is a good idea in your kit. I use a lot of just regular old latex gloves. These are Chemtrol, a little bit more chemical resistant than I'm putting on right now. But either way you do it, some eye protection, some skin protection, and probably some lung protection too if you're doing any amount of this, sanding this stuff. Good idea to have a respirator on and some gloves. Now, when it comes to your fabrics, to keep it simple today, we mentioned that in one of our last week's episode, the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. So we're going to try to really boil this down to the basics. One of my very favorite fabrics is a 1708. This has a layer of what we call CSM, or chop strand mat, on the back side, and it has a heavier fabric on the top side. This is pretty much universal and can be used with all of the resins that we were showing you, and this is for your strength primarily. When we were building our 29 footer, there are 10 layers of this on the bottom of our 29, and she is bulletproof. Now, one of the other real popular materials that we use all the time is a combination of what's already on the back of this 1708, and this is what we call CSM, or chop strand mat. It's just random short hairs of fiberglass. This is really good at waterproofing and gluing things together. And there are several ways that you can deal with this stuff. Now, I want to show y'all some zip snips. These are awesome little tools. If you've never used them, if you've got arthritis in your hands or just want something to speed the process along. When I was growing up here in the boat shop, it was always just your regular old scissors. Work really well. They also cut the 1708 super well, and you can even just tear the CSM like so. Straight edge, you got a table, and that's what we like to do a lot of times to get these nice blended and feathered edges. And again, stick around because we're actually going to be tying all this together on our demonstration table. Now, there are other little miscellaneous things you're going to need in your kit. By the way, all of these materials are available either through Fiberglass Warehouse, and they have an excellent FISHBUMPTV discount code, or we have worked super hard to put together a fantastic Amazon store with a lot of the tools and supplies we're using. If you can't find it at Fiberglass Warehouse, check out our Amazon store below our video's description. So, little things like some stirring sticks, tongue depressors. Good idea for mixing your materials together. I love these little Zep sprayers. We actually put acetone in these a lot because we use acetone as a solvent. That is going to be something you're going to want in your kit, a gallon of acetone. Also a good idea to have some disposable paint trays. There are other miscellaneous stuff. And again, y'all help me in the comment section. I need you pros out there and guys that have been following. Some disposable mixing cups. We call these popcorn cups. Inexpensive. Some blue tape needs to be in your kit. Silicone spatula for making your fillets and smoothing out your putty works great. This is something that a lot of people mess up with. If you're new to fiberglass, they try mixing putties and chemicals on cardboard, and I would not recommend it. The solvents get leached out of your putties and fillers into the cardboard because it's porous. You need a non-porous but somewhat flexible material. I like this plastic sign board, and I cut it in about 12-inch squares. And you can see, you can go to your local sign shop and sometimes get old ones, and I just cut them on the bandsaw there behind us, and it does a great job. Super easy to clean, super flexible, and that is the hot ticket. Now again, y'all bear with me because we're fixing to jump back into actually doing some fiberglass. But a few more things, you folks that are brand new. Matter of fact, there was one other item, I'm getting too far away, and we're gonna be using some of this in a second, is some peel ply. Now this is a kind of a mystery material for a lot of folks, but it kind of works alongside the fiberglass to smooth it out or dry tack free. And it is one of those little special tools in your arsenal there that make things a lot better for you, but we're gonna be using that as well. So good idea to have some little 3M sanding blocks. And if you're gonna pick one grit of sandpaper, I would probably say 80 grit is kind of my all-around go-to, but a lot of times you're gonna wanna scuff and sand. These little blocks are super handy. I also like a little piece of PVC. Sometimes you got a radius or a radii, and you can roll this and you can sand and make it exactly like you want. Good 3M respirator, quality gloves, disposable masks, and some good rollers. Now, in our shop, we use a lot of these inexpensive. They're 3/8 snap. These are 3/8 snap, just your regular for latex paints and stains. But one thing we like to do is wrap them in tape, and that'll pull some of those excess fibers and hairs off of there when you're doing fiberglass. Now, when we move to Gelcoat, yes, we do use these, but it sometimes pays to move up to a higher quality. I've had good luck with this particular one. The 3/8 snap is gonna leave a little more texture. If you want a little bit smoother, you can go to a 1/4 nap. So again, for you new folks out there, in your kit, some cups, mixing boards, rollers, inexpensive brushes. We just call these chip brushes. A 3-inch and a 2-inch are my go-tos personally for me. Now, as far as keeping fiberglass off of you, an inexpensive I call it Tyvek, but it's actually not. This is a lightweight. It's the breathable type. If you look here, a lot of times Tyvek suits are blazing hot. So unless it's the wintertime and you're cold and trying to stay warm, I prefer the breathable kinds. That will keep the little splashes and the dust off of you for the most part. And then another little secret of the trade is a spray sock. If you're gonna be doing any sanding or grinding, you can actually put these over your head, put a mask on over them. It'll keep the fiberglass dust from getting in your ears and around your neck and whatnot. Again, one of those little tricks of the trade. Now, I wanna zip over here real quick. We've got a table full of tools, and I don't know that we're gonna go super deep into tools today. I would love for y'all to comment and let me know if you would like for me to go deeper into tools that we prefer. But if there's one tool that I would say starting your kit would be some kind of a high-speed sander or a grinder. Now lately I've been using a lot of the MEKP stuff. I've had good success with them in the past, but you can use other brands, and I have used other brands. 24 or 36 grit, something that'll really put some tooth on your material. I've got a little piece of plywood here. Generally, you're gonna want that surface to be etched in some good tooth on the surface. Now, plywood is incredibly popular, and probably one of our most popular videos on the channel is how to fiberglass over plywood. If you want to run back through it, it again goes in depth, in detail. But there are other materials out there. Now, this is CUSA board. This is actually what we put the floor, the bow deck, all the cap and superstructure in our 29 when we were building it. And if you look at our project boat here, the stringers, the transom, we've already got part of the floor going in. And yes, for you folks that are following the channel, you do spy a new fuel tank. So we will be getting back to that. But I've been super busy. Our charter season has started. So we've been running a bunch of fishing charters, which makes me think if you folks want to come down here and fish with me on the Gulf Coast, Island Marine Charters, you can look us up, reach out to me. We can book a charter for you folks, and you can actually go out on the 29 and we can talk about boats and stuff to your heart's content, man. We'll help you work your way through your project. Bring a notepad. We'll figure it all out. But CUSA board is fantastic, and it behaves a lot like plywood, other than it never soaks water, never rots, and it's going to be a little bit lighter in weight. I would definitely, though, a little high-speed grinder. Now, one of the other things we typically recommend doing, and I'm probably going to skip it today just for time on the video, but using a little heat source to warm up the surfaces prior to starting. Especially today is a little bit rainy, the humidity is high, and we don't really like super high humidity. That's one of the things working with fiberglass. Temperature and humidity play a factor. Generally, when you're mixing your resins, you're gonna want 1 to 2% typically on your catalyst ratios or percentages. And again, if you want to go into more depth on that, check out the channel. We've got a little infrared heat gun here, 24 Celsius, or see if I can get a 75 Fahrenheit, which is about perfect. Typically for most polyesters and vinylesters, I like to see about 60 degrees up to about 90 degrees. Below 60, it can be hard to cure, and you would need to add more catalyst, more like in that 2% range. When it gets up around 90 degrees, it's gonna cure super fast. You need to back that percentage down. I find that vinylesters also need a little more of the catalyst typically than polyesters do. So typically I run closer to that 1.5% on average, or near 2%. But if you're looking at 75 degrees, that's perfect. The surface has been etched. We've got, it's nice and clean, which is very important. And we're actually gonna do a little bit of fiberglass in here real quick, folks. Now, a little pan is not a bad idea. And I wanna show you all the full process as quick and easy as possible. These little disposable liners are the hot ticket if you're doing this kind of work at home. That'll minimize the mess and the fuss. And I love the Vinylester, but I've got a little more of the ISO polyester in stock here in the boat shop. So this is actually what our 29 footer is built out of, is an ISO polyester. If you're gonna use polyester, the ISO stands for isophthalic, and it's gonna be a higher caliber, higher grade. And that's pretty much the only polyester resins that I personally ever use here in the boat shop. So some graduated cups are also gonna be crucial, because we're gonna need to know exactly how much material we're dealing with. We're gonna go with about 4 ounces or so, and let's say that's around 125 milliliters for you folks on the metric system. Here we go. Perfect. And remember our little cheat sheet there. 4 ounces. We're going to go a little bit on the spicier side of things. So we're going to go for about 2.5 cc's. Now again, you folks that have been watching the channel a long time, hang in there with us, and I need your input in the comments. Little squeeze bottle. This has been one of our more popular Amazon items. 2.5 cc's. This helps with accuracy. Very good. We're stirring sticks to mix this up. I'm telling you folks, if you're new to fiberglass, which this video is really made for you new folks, we've talked about it before. I call it analysis paralysis, where people have an idea to build a little overland camper, or they want to repair their busted boat, or they've got a hole in their shower that needs to be fixed with some fiberglass. and they analyze it to death and they never move forward. But just remember, it's like baking. Now, not that some projects aren't complicated. Like obviously when we built our 29, that was a multi-year, thousands of hour project. But think about baking. If you want to just make some like peanut butter cookies, that's pretty easy. If you want to bake a wedding cake, that's more complicated. But start with the simple stuff. Keep it simple, stupid. Remember the KISS, and there's some other ones out there, the 7 Ps, I believe, if you know what that is. But basically, start with something easy, an understanding of your materials. We got your polyester, we got our CSM, we got our 1708. We're gonna need a roller and a brush. That's gonna make it nice and easy for us. Now, 4 ounces or so, we got our catalyst. I'm going straight into the pan. We call that a 2-pot method. I always like to mix in a cup and rock and roll from there. There we go. Let's load up the roller. Now typically when I'm doing plywood, I would typically prime this first. So that would be basically we would roll a coat of resin on and I would let that cure. Typically cure times can vary depending on your temperature. If it's really, really warm outside, sometimes as little as an hour, and this stuff is completely, you could walk on it, touch it, sand it, grind it. If it's colder, you may have to give it 6, 8, 10, even sometimes 24 hours until it has reached its cure cycle. But again, don't let that intimidate you. Just get some of this stuff. I would recommend getting a little bit of the CSM. That is the 1 ounce. Again, that's 1 ounce. You're gonna wanna always wet underneath or wet your surface first. And as easy as that, folks. It is actually super simple. When I say fiberglass is simple, it is not rocket science, but just like baking, there is a method to the madness, and you need to follow the recipe, follow the directions. Now, one thing with working with a roller, it's gonna soak up a little more resin. Now, sometimes what I'll do when I'm working with 1708 in smaller pieces is I will lay it in the pan and wet it out and then transfer it. Now, if it's a bigger piece, probably not gonna wanna do that if you're a newbie, but I'm trying not to waste any resin because this is just a sample piece for you folks at home. We're doing this purely for the channel, just so everybody at home can see how easy and simple fiberglass can be. It reminds me, I don't know, I watched a movie about cooking one time. I used to watch y'all remember Julia Childs? When I was growing up, I kind of like Gordon Ramsay. I kind of like him. I know he can be polarizing a little bit, but he's kind of mellowed a little bit as he's gotten older. But cooking shows can be a lot of fun. And if you think about the right ingredients, the right preparation, I'm gonna try to get every little drop out of there. Now, one thing that we use a lot here on the channel would be little bubble busters or fin rollers. And again, we have these listed in our Amazon store. People wonder, how do we clean our stuff? Acetone, 5-gallon bucket. Keep a little bit in there. Just remember, highly flammable. So no open sparks, no cigarettes, goes boom. So yeah, be super careful there. So what we're gonna do is just go back and forth, work some of the resin in and some of the air out. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That works. Bubble busters. And don't worry, folks, if you can see here, it's not 100% transparent, although you can see that little knot through the wood there. It'll get more and more transparent as it sits for several minutes. It'll kind of go, maybe not completely clear, but mostly clear. Now we're gonna finish this with one more little piece of CSM. Now if If this is you at home, there's different sequences to layering fiberglass, and there's not one application for every scenario. So remember that. And again, videos back in the channel dedicated to how many layers produce how much fiberglass. Feel free to comment down below. Maybe some of our other folks here that are following the channel. I need you guys that have been following me for a while to hang in here with me. Maybe help me answer some questions. Help grow our community, because quite honestly, the size of the channel right now, and then like with my the charter business, it has been a bit of a struggle to be able to answer everybody's questions out there. Now that was really, really, really close. That was really close. Now there's another little tool that we use sometimes. Now, I don't know how much resin I'll be able to get out of there, but this is called a 5-in-1. I would definitely put this in your kit. Look at there, folks. Able to get a little more resin out of our roller and maybe finish out the job, right? Super handy dandy 5-in-1 tool. That can go right in the bucket. Usually when we're done with the roller, we're gonna go in the trash can. I like to kick them off of there, just like so. But if this thing is full of resin, remember, do not leave it in a trash can, because it can generate heat. When fiberglass cures, it creates an exothermic reaction. So I'm just gonna set that right there and put the roller in the acetone. We can take our brush. We can take our brush and we can spread that around. Now, if you want, I really like this to be a little bit on the wet side, and this is probably good for me to demonstrate right here. We are really close, but there's still a little bit of dryness. But a lot of times when you get the bubble buster out, you can see that resin start to come to the surface. And we want to work it back and forth till there's a little sheen of resin on there. Not too shabby. Now, if for some reason you haven't mixed enough, there's no reason why you can't jump back and reuse your mixing cup. Now, even though there's still liquid in there, we don't necessarily have to start with a brand new cup and everything. A lot of times you can mix another little, just what I would call a splash. If you need just a little more, no reason you can't add a little more, a little shot of catalyst, and you're going right back to work. Now I'm also going to show you folks, we're going to finish with some peel ply, and I also need y'all's help and y'all's opinion on what you would like to see. And again, I know we've done videos somewhat similar to this in the past, but the channel's grown at such a rapid rate and we're getting a lot of questions regarding things that are in older videos that maybe people have had trouble finding. Now, one thing you can do, I'm kind of a big roller guy, but you can absolutely take a brush and lay a little more resin on there. Now, it doesn't do real good if you try to brush it back and forth. It'll kind of make it lump and clump like that. But if you just kind of lay it across, you can get the results you're looking for. Now, I want to show y'all some peel ply. This stuff is actually pretty cool. Oops, I cut a little piece off. I should have done that earlier. Today we didn't know what the weather was going to do, and we couldn't really get into anything a bigger project. So I thought I would just make more of a back to basics. And y'all let me know if you think I'm right or not about fiberglass actually being simple, because I'm telling you the response that I'm getting from folks. Let's say I'm going to start in the middle, and you just kind of work the wrinkles out. It's a lot like wallpaper work, maybe window tint. Now what happens is once you've let this cure, it will smooth out your fiberglass considerably. And it also acts as an air inhibitor. So if you remember when we talked about Gelcoat earlier, the peel ply inhibits the air from getting to the resin, and therefore when you peel it off of there, the resin is going to be tack free. It's going to be nice and hard and tack free. Now, regrettably, because of time, I can't show you that. I don't have that, but again, I have other videos here on the channel dedicated directly to peel ply. Now, one thing you can do if you want to speed things along a little bit, you can use a little Wagner heat source. You can warm this up a little bit, check it with your temperature probe. You can take this material up to about 85, 90 degrees with no problem, and that will accelerate the cure of things. Now, I am sure I missed something, and again, you folks at home that have been following the channel, I need your help. So comments down below, maybe help answer some of the questions from some of the people that are new to the channel, because the community is growing. But also you can check out our Facebook group page. If you guys need some consulting help right now, we are really busy. I don't have much time on Patreon, but we do have Patreons that are supporting the work that we do here in the channel. Memberships as well. If y'all want to see me do more on tool selection for the boat shop, that would be great. If you want to book a charter, island marine charters, you can look me up and we can actually go out in the Gulf and catch some big old fish in the 29. So it's Captain Joe here, Island Marine Charters, Fish Bump TV. My son Logan working hard behind the scenes as my amazing cameraman. And we'll catch you in the next episode.